Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. Our mission is to see a world well led. And our strategy to get there? To empower leaders like you to lead every day. So let's get to work.
What do you want to be true a year from today that's not true today? I think it's a fantastic question as you begin to think about creating an annual plan toward your best year ever. Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. I'm Randy Gravitt.
And I'm Mark Miller.
We're glad that you've joined us today for this conversation on creating an annual plan. Yesterday we said some people spend more time planning a week of vacation than they do an entire year of their lives, and we're trying to change that here these next couple of weeks. And I think it starts with something we referenced last week. We talked in the Uncommon Greatness content that's coming out. By the way, shout out to the book there. Pre-order that if you haven't done it. You can find that on the site. But one of those fundamentals was to see the future, and we talked about that in our organizations and with our teams. But I think it works in our own lives as well. As we think about planning, this idea of being able to see where you want to go, powerful idea. This vision piece.
Yeah, it's hard to create a future you can't imagine, because we talked also yesterday about drift.
Yeah,
and you don't want to drift. I don't know that people drift to good places.
Yeah.
I think you drift to bad places.
Yeah, you just end up where the wind takes you.
Wherever.
Yeah.
And it's probably not where you want to be.
Yeah.
And so to tap into our imagination and say, what is possible? What is possible? I think leaders may give more thought to that question for their organizations than they do for themselves.
Yeah.
And we're really talking here about creating your best year ever personally. Now,
Yeah.
I think that'll have implications for your family and your key relationships and your team and your organization. But
And you probably need a plan in those areas as
Sure.
well. But we're talking about a personal plan.
talking about a personal plan. What are you going to do in the next 12 months to create your best year ever?
Yeah. So when you asked the question a year ago, that question, what would you have to do to make this your best year ever? My mind went to these different, I'll call them areas, domains of my life. You know, I think if you're starting to think about your own annual plan, one of the things I'd encourage you to do is just make a list of the areas of your life that are important. So your family might be one of those that you mentioned there. Your job might be one. I mean, vocationally, I think that's relationally, physically. I mean, that would be an area that you want to begin to think about. Financially, spiritually, emotionally. Man, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to think about this. But I would love to have this idea of, I've got these settled, and then I ask that question, what do I want to be different in each of these areas a year from now? Not just like what I want to be different. I mean, globally, like, do I have some specific things?
Right. Yeah. The first time I was introduced to that idea was many years ago. My coach had asked me to put together a 30-year plan. Now, I know that's not what we're talking about today, but he said, identify your major accounts and then figure out what kind of deposits you need to make in those accounts.
Each of those accounts, yeah.
And that was a good metaphor for me. I mean, I'm not a finance guy, but I understand if you got an account,
you start making deposits,
and you want to put something in it, and it'll grow.
Yeah.
But it can't grow unless you put something in it. And I won't put in a short plug for a long range plan. Whether it's 30 years or not is probably not relevant. But I think we all make better decisions when we think long term. And if you do know where you want to be in 10, 20, 30 years, I think that informs your decision making regarding what you need to do this next year.
Yeah.
Because you want to be sure you're on a path
to
so that you don't do a bunch of individual plans and realize you weren't really focused on anything, or you really weren't striving to be anywhere in 30 years.
Yeah. You're climbing the ladder, but it's against the wrong wall mindset. And that's not what we want. And I know you just shared with the group a couple of weeks ago that you're redoing your 30-year plan.
Yes.
Or giving it a refresh.
Well, I'm going back in because I find it to be helpful.
Yeah, that's good. And especially, and in your case, you've had a transition here with you've left one job and joined up here. So it's
right.
This has been cool to see that. But, you know, maybe somebody's listening's in a transition time, and it might be time to update a longer term. Or there may be people who are listening that are just in a spot and they know they're not headed where they need to, and they're going to have to make a change. And so I love this idea of starting with a picture and having a vision. I had an 8th grade teacher. I'll never forget this. I'm not sure it was true what she said, but she told as an English teacher. She said, "There's an old quote: anything the mind can conceive, the body can achieve." I'm not sure that's true, but I do think it's really hard to achieve your dreams if you don't have a dream. I mean, if you got it, you got to have a place where you really are thinking about, where am I trying to go in any of these areas of my life. I think it's so powerful, and it's just it's a piece of our imagination. I guess if you think about it that way, one of the things I think that gets in the way of this, Mark, is most people don't put time on their calendar to think about this. Talk about that.
Well, it takes time on task
Yeah.
to answer these significant and profound questions.
Yeah.
The problems we're going to solve in the shower or driving to work
That's-
are it's good.
They're good,
It's
but-
good when we solve those problems.
but that's not going to
But you're not going to probably
create your annual plan in the shower.
create your annual plan or identify issues or things that you want to be true in the future. And so I think there is a huge discipline that leaders need to embrace, and it's this idea of margin.
Yeah.
Now, I think it is extremely useful when you're doing your plan, but I think it's useful throughout your life, throughout your leadership, throughout your career. So let me say a word about that since we've gone here. I'm not talking about a vacation. You referenced a vacation earlier. I think leaders need time away, and that's great, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
To me, margin is the leadership discipline of purposefully putting aside time to reflect, to assess, to think, to create, and to plan. And so I'm asking leaders more and more and more, when do you have time on
The
your
space
calendar
in your-
to reflect, to assess, to think, create, and to plan? And if you have that time, then you can devote a portion of it to your annual plan.
Right.
But I would advocate that you have margin throughout your year, not just in the fall
Yeah.
or in December when you're trying to polish up your annual plan.
Yeah. I love that.
There was a study just completed a couple of years back. Harvard looked at the calendars of CEOs for 12 years. Can you imagine all that you could discern from that?
Yeah.
One of the things they found is that in a typical work week, these men and women spend 28% of their time alone. And somebody said to me, well, what do you think they're doing? Reflect, assess, think, create, and plan.
Yeah.
The bigger your goals, the bigger your dreams, the bigger your problems, the more time you're going to need for margin.
You're the one who told me I first heard say that the higher up you go in an organization, the more time you need to spend alone.
Absolutely.
And I think that's just such a great reminder.
Because your
Now,
problems are bigger, your challenges are bigger, your opportunities are bigger.
you're planning for more people, all that strategy.
People are counting on you.
People are
I tell
counting
the
on
leaders who say they're not doing this, I'm going, well, who is doing it? If you're not doing it, who's doing it?
Right. Yeah, you can't delegate this discipline. I mean, it's got to be on your thing. So,
And it's been evident throughout history. I mean,
Yeah.
you go back and look at great leaders for the last several thousand years, and you'll find margin as part of their discipline.
yeah, so I would encourage you as we wrap up today to be thinking about your annual plan, but it starts with a picture. When you think about your future in all these areas of your life, you decide what they are, which ones are important to you. You have to have a picture of what you want. What do you want it to be? If your mind can conceive it, I think you got a really good chance to achieve it in this next year. But if you don't have a picture, drift is not going to get you there. It's not. We're going to need some time these next couple of weeks. We'd encourage you to maybe even take an extra hour today sometime. Put it on your calendar. It might not happen today, but sometime in the next few days, take an hour and begin to dream about your next year in these areas of your life. What do you want to be different?
I think that's really important. I know it sounds like crazy. Put it on your calendar.
Yeah.
And so when somebody wants that hour this afternoon or next Thursday, you can say, no, I'm sorry, I've already got a meeting.
It's already scheduled. Yep. That's good. It might be the most important meeting you have, the one with yourself as you work on your annual plan. We're going to continue to give you some things these next few days to help you unpack that. I hope you'll continue to join us. Keep sharing. Thank you so much for helping these downloads grow. It's been great. Friends and family, tell them about it. You might even partner up with some people around your life and be thinking about this plan together. I think we've got a tremendous advantage. I know it's been helpful to me to have the group of guys that we've been around for years. We've been planning together. There's accountability there. You lay your plan before the people around you that know you. one of the guys even a couple of weeks ago said, what does your wife want you to add to your plan? I mean, I think there's all kind of ways to think about this. This is up to you. It's a decision. When you create an annual plan and you live by that plan and you protect the margin, the spaces around it, your life's going to get better. Remember, the best leaders lead every day.